Chapter 2166. Lu Ming guessed that the passageway in Nine Dragons City must lead to a place with extremely dense origin qi. Only when the passageway led to such a place would the origin qi converge, and the laws of heaven and earth would it create such a scene. Was it Yuanlu or the heavenly realm? Lu Ming's imagination ran wild. However, what the old man and the middle-aged man said next caused Lu Ming's expression to change. Because they said that a few years ago, some supreme experts had come from Yuanlu. They were called martial emperors, and they had occupied Divine Wilderness Continent. Now Divine Wilderness Continent was under the control of these experts from Yuanlu. As for Divine Ruins Continent, because it was far from Divine Wilderness Continent, the origin qi was not as dense and there were not many sacred herbs and spiritual fruits that had recovered. Therefore, the experts from Yuanlu did not extend their hands here. Expert from Yuanlu, martial emperors? Could it be Sakura? Lu Ming's expression changed, and he immediately thought of Sakura. Sakura was not in Yuanlu. It was very likely that he had heard some news and came to Divine Wilderness Continent. If that was the case, wouldn't Dragon Alliance be controlled by Sakura? Then wouldn't his parents, Xiao Wan and the others fall into Sakura's hands? At that moment, Lu Ming could not remain calm. He wanted to immediately return to Divine Wilderness Continent. Following that, Lu Ming asked a few more questions before leaving with Qiuyu and flying in the direction of Divine Wilderness Continent. The two of them were extremely fast. Soon, they flew out of Divine Ruins Continent and into the boundless sea. Along the way, Lu Ming discovered that the world was different. The origin qi was incomparably dense, and there were spiritual mountains and spiritual herbs everywhere. If Divine Ruins Continent was like this, then what would Divine Wilderness Continent be like? It must be even more shocking. Splash! In the sea, sea beasts surged and emitted a shocking aura. Ninth layer Martial Royal Realm. Lu Ming discovered a shark that was extremely ferocious, and had a cultivation of the ninth layer Martial Royal Realm. The origin qi in the sea was also incomparably dense, causing the cultivation of the sea beasts in the sea to skyrocket. The two of them were extremely fast and they were constantly approaching Divine Wilderness Continent. The closer they were to Divine Wilderness Continent, the denser the origin qi became and the space became more stable. This gave Lu Ming the illusion that he had returned to Yuanlu. Not long after, the two returned to the Divine Wilderness and disembarked from Northern Plains. What a rich yuan qi! Lu Ming and Autumn Moon were shocked. The origin qi in the Northern Plains was extremely dense. The two of them felt that they were close to the ancient Moon Holy Land. One had to know that the ancient Moon Holy Land was one of the 9 great holy lands of the Yuan Mountain Land. It was known as a holy land, so one could imagine the cultivation environment. However, the Divine Wilderness Continent was very close to the ancient Moon Holy Land. The two of them used the Divine Breath technique to alter their appearances and auras. It was possible that Sakura was in the Divine Wilderness Continent, and there were other members of the Emperor family. Lu Ming did not want to alert them. Acting in secret was the best plan. Lu Ming turned into a dark-skinned young man, and Autumn Moon turned into an ordinary-looking woman. The two of them slowed down and walked through the air, observing the changes in various places. On the ground, ancient trees towered into the sky. On many mountain peaks, spiritual medicines were everywhere. There were even sacred medicines growing. Many demonic beasts roamed the mountains and forests, and their cultivations were very powerful. With a casual glance, they discovered that there were many spiritual sea realm, spiritual embryo realm, and spiritual god realm demonic beasts. They were in groups. There were also many martial emperor realm demonic beasts. These demonic beasts fed on spiritual medicines, and their cultivations skyrocketed. Even Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Then the two of them flew and looked for big cities to gather information. Soon they came to a big city and found out more detailed information. This land began to change 8 or 9 years ago. As the ruler of the Divine Wilderness Continent, the Dragon League seized the opportunity to obtain a large amount of resources. The number of experts in the Dragon League skyrocketed, and the experts became stronger. However, a few years ago, experts from the Yuanlu came. Facing the experts from the Yuanlu, the Dragon League could not resist at all. They were suppressed and occupied. There was more than one group of experts from the Yuanlu. There were several groups that occupied various territories in the Divine Wilderness continent. Currently, the Divine Wilderness continent was the ruler of the Yuanlu experts. The experts from the Dragon League were completely controlled by the experts from the Yuanlu experts. Lu Ming's heart was heavy. At the same time, he also heard some other news. Over the years, many people in the Divine Wilderness continent had speculated about the changes in the land. Some people said that the Divine Wilderness continent must have been a prosperous land in the distant past. This could be deduced from the countless spiritual medicines and sacred medicines that emerged from the depths of the earth. In the distant past, the Divine Wilderness continent must have been filled with spiritual medicines and sacred medicines. However, later on, for some unknown reason, this land was sealed by the 9-dragon cauldron and the 9-dragon veins. Therefore, the Divine Wilderness continent had withered. Now that the passage had been reopened, the entire continent had recovered. Lu Ming's heart was heavy as he rushed to the central continent with Qiu Moon. Along the way, they saw many people roaming the vast mountains in search of various spiritual medicines and sacred medicines. Young master, many people are heading towards that mountain range, Qiu Moon said. Lu Ming nodded. Along the way, they noticed that many people were flying in the same direction. Their eyes were burning with passion. I'm afraid that an incredible treasure has appeared in that place. Let's go take a look. Lu Ming's interest was piqued. Then he flew in that direction with Qiu Moon. Soon they arrived in front of a vast mountain range. Roar. From time to time, the roars of beasts could be heard from the mountains. Demonic beasts as large as mountains roamed freely, fighting with human martial artists. This mountain range is really impressive. There are sacred medicines everywhere. Lu Ming's eyes were like stars. He could see a large territory and the entire mountain range. Standing high in the sky, the large mountain range was reflected in his eyes. He discovered that the mountain range was rich in origin qi. Spiritual medicines and sacred medicines were everywhere. There were even more sacred medicines and spiritual medicines than the ancient moon sacred ground. Lu Ming could not help but think that the Divine Wilderness continent might have been prosperous in the distant past. Deep underground, there were seeds of sacred medicines that had not decayed for thousands of years. Now that the origin qi was rich, they had taken root and sprouted. Otherwise, no matter how rich the origin qi was, it was impossible for so many spiritual medicines and sacred medicines to grow in less than 10 years. Similarly, there were countless powerful demonic beasts living in this vast mountain range. Young master, shall we collect some sacred medicines too? Qiu Moon asked. Sure. Lu Ming nodded. Although Lu Ming had a lot of resources in his hands, no one would complain about having more panacea. Although they would not be able to use these panacea, his parents and others would definitely be able to use them in the future. The two rushed into the forest and saw a ginseng that was as thick as an arm. It was golden and fragrant. This was a sacred medicine. It was useful even for martial sages. However, this ginseng was guarded by a demonic beast. Roar. A giant wolf with the strength of a second-layer martial royal realm lunged at Lu Ming. Lu Ming waved his hand and a strong force shot out, killing the giant wolf. Then he put away the golden ginseng. After that, Qiu Moon and Lu Ming traveled through the forest to collect sacred medicines. They were too lazy to collect ordinary sacred medicines. In a valley, Lu Ming casually killed a giant snake with the strength of a first-layer martial royal realm, and collected a sacred medicine. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. It would be strange if the cultivation of the people of the Divine Wilderness continent did not soar during this period of time. There were too many sacred medicines. Chapter 2167. There were so many sacred herbs here that even those from the ancient moon sacred land would be envious of them. Of course, it was impossible to improve one's cultivation just by consuming the herbs. One still needed to comprehend them. However, it was still much faster than before. Whoosh! Whoosh! At that moment, a few figures appeared above the valley. There were 4 of them, an old man, 2 middle-aged men, and a middle-aged woman. The 4 of them glanced at the corpse of the giant snake in the valley, and were surprised. The 2 of you, were you the ones who killed this giant snake? The old man asked. He was obviously the leader of the 4. That's right. Lu Ming nodded. You two are quite young, but you managed to kill a first-layer martial royal realm giant snake. Are you here for the Holy Spirit fruit too? The old man asked. Holy Spirit fruit? Lu Ming was confused, but he did not show it on his face. He asked, Are you here too? That's right. We've received news that there's a Holy Spirit fruit tree on Wuyuan Mountain that's about to mature. A single Holy Spirit fruit is enough to give birth to a martial saint expert. Many treasure hunting groups have come here to compete for the Holy Spirit fruit, the old man said. A single Holy Spirit fruit can give birth to a martial saint? Lu Ming was shocked. He had read many books in the Great Elixir Evolution Palace, but he had never heard of a fruit like the Holy Spirit fruit, not to mention the fact that it could give birth to a martial saint. It seemed like the divine wilderness continent had indeed given birth to some amazing things. Lu Ming's interest grew. Are you two willing to join us? The more people we have, the better. We can take care of each other on the way. The old man asked again. Sure. Lu Ming pondered for a moment and nodded. Xiaoyu was completely at Lu Ming's beck and call. She would follow whatever Lu Ming did. The old man and the others were overjoyed. Lu Ming and Xiaoyu were able to move around in the mountains and kill a first-layer martial royal realm giant snake, which meant that they were quite strong. If they joined them, their strength would increase too. Lu Ming wanted to join them mainly because he wanted to take a look at the Holy Spirit fruit. It would be nice if he could pick a few and give them to his parents. Then the two sides introduced themselves to each other. Lu Ming knew that the old man's name was Han Zhong. The four of them were a treasure-seeking group. Ever since the anomaly of the divine wilderness continent, all sorts of spirit herbs and sacred herbs began to recover. Many treasure-seeking groups had appeared. As the name implied, these people roamed the various famous mountains and great rivers in search of various spirit medicines and saint medicines to exchange for various cultivation resources. This time, many treasure hunting groups came to Mount Wuyuan. After the introductions, the group continued on their journey. The old man headed deeper into the mountain range. As he walked, he searched for spirit herbs and saint herbs. What a strong medicinal fragrance! Suddenly, Han Zhong's expression changed. Lu Ming and Xiaoyu also smelled the rich medicinal fragrance coming from the front. Everyone hurriedly moved forward, and immediately saw a small patch of sparkling purple grass. Redbud orchid. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat as he recognized this grass. The redbud orchid was a low-level sacred medicine. To Bright Saint Realm martial artists, it was quite useful. There were a total of 7 of them. Han Zhong's eyes lit up. 7 sacred medicines appeared at once, and they were very valuable. However, it was not that easy to obtain them. Hiss hiss hiss. Hiss hiss could be heard from the ground as purple threads slithered around. They were small snakes the size of chopsticks, and their bodies were sparkling. Lu Ming glanced at them and saw 11 of them. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 11 small snakes shot towards the group. Attack! Han Zhong roared and attacked together with the others, attacking the 11 little snakes. The 11 small snakes had high cultivation levels. They were all martial emperors. The strongest one was a LV3 martial emperor, the same as Han Zhong. Was this still the divine wilderness continent? Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He had an illusion that he was in the Yuanlu continent. Back in the day, a LV1 martial emperor was an overlord in the divine wilderness continent. They could establish an overlord force and dominate a region. A LV2 martial emperor was almost invincible in the world. A LV3 martial emperor was legendary. Xiaowan was a LV3 martial emperor when he was at his peak. However, there was a nest of snakes in the mountain, and they were all martial emperors. The strongest one was a LV3 martial emperor. It made Lu Ming feel as though time and space were in a mess. It was as though he was still in Yuanlu. Clang! Clang! Han Zhong and the others fought against the 11 small purple snakes. Han Zhong fought against the LV3 martial emperor snake alone while the others fought against the other small snakes. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon also attacked. Of course, they did not use their full strength. They only used a part of their strength. Puff! Puff! Lu Ming and Autumn Moon killed 2 small snakes in a row. This surprised the others. Autumn Moon and Lu Ming's combat strength was stronger than they had imagined. Kill! The two burly men and the middle-aged woman unleashed their full strength and used various killing moves. They finally suppressed the small snakes and killed them. Their cultivation level is high, but their combat strength is not high. Lu Ming shook his head inwardly. He realized that although these people's cultivation level had reached the martial emperor realm, their combat strength was much weaker than those in the Yuanlu continent. This was because these people lacked domain martial techniques. That's right, Han Zhong and the others were all using brute force. This was normal. Now that the heavens and earth had recovered, the origin chi had increased greatly. Many people's cultivation level had increased by leaps and bounds. However, domain martial techniques would not appear out of nowhere. For example, the two burly men were LV2 martial emperors. However, they could only barely suppress the LV1 martial emperors. It took them a lot of effort to kill the LV1 martial emperors. However, Han Zhong was at a disadvantage in the battle against the LV3 martial emperor snake. The little purple snake was as fast as lightning. Its speed was astonishing, and its body was as hard as iron. It forced Han Zhong into a fluster. Swoosh! At this moment, a purple lightning bolt rushed towards Han Zhong from another direction. It was another small purple snake. Its cultivation level was also LV3 martial emperor. Not good. The two burly men and the middle-aged woman were shocked. Surprisingly, there was also a small purple snake of the third layer of the martial emperor realm hiding nearby. At this moment, it suddenly attacked Han Zhong. Han Zhong was already having a hard time dealing with one snake. Now that there was another one attacking him, he could not avoid it at all. The two burly men wanted to save him, but it was too late. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly appeared behind Han Zhong and threw out a palm. The surging palm force directly sent that little snake flying. Of course, Lu Ming did not use his full strength. Otherwise, the small purple snake would have died. But with this block, the others finally reacted. Attack! The two burly men and the middle-aged woman rushed towards the small snake. The three of them joined forces and fought against the small snake. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon also joined the battle. They pretended to attack and soon killed the small snake. Then he helped Han Zhong kill the little snake as well. Brother Lu's combat strength is not bad. Why don't you join our treasure hunting group and search for treasures together? Chapter 2168. Han Zhong invited Lu Ming, hoping that Lu Ming and Qiu Moon would join their group. The others also had hopeful looks on their faces. The strength that Lu Ming had displayed had exceeded their expectations. He was most likely a third-layer martial dominator realm expert, whose strength was even stronger than Han Zhong's. If Lu Ming and Qiu Moon were willing to join them, the strength of their group would increase tremendously. Lu Ming immediately shook his head and rejected the offer. Why would he want to join a group like this? He had only joined Han Zhong's group because he wanted to take a look at the Wuyuan mountain. Seeing Lu Ming's rejection, Han Zhong and the others were disappointed. Brother Lu, I'm old, so I'll give you a word of advice. Although your cultivation is not weak, now that the world is recovering, everyone's cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds. Experts are everywhere, especially when you're searching for sacred herbs and spirit herbs in the vast mountains. You'll encounter even more powerful demonic beasts, and it'll be even more dangerous. Han Zhong did not give up and spoke again. In other words, although Lu Ming's cultivation was not bad, the two of them were not enough. He would need to work with others. Thanks for the reminder. Lu Ming let out a smile, but he still did not accept the offer. Young man, you're too full of yourself. I've seen many confident cultivators like you, who thought they were strong, but they all died in the end. A middle-aged bulky man could not help but mock him. Don't talk nonsense. Han Zhong snapped, causing the bulky man to shut his mouth. Brother Lu, don't mind him. He didn't mean it. Han Zhong explained with a smile. It's fine. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Given his current realm and standing at such a height, he really did not feel anything about these words. Besides, once they reached the Wuyuan mountain and obtained the sacred spiritual fruit, he would not have any interaction with Han Zhong and the others in the future. Following this, Han Zhong plucked the 7 stalks of redbud orchids. Brother Lu, thanks for your help. There are 7 stalks in total, and you can take 3. What do you think? Han Zhong handed 3 stalks of redbud orchids to Lu Ming. 7 redbud orchids for the 6 of them. However, this time, Lu Ming had contributed a lot, so he gave Lu Ming an extra redbud orchid. Lu Ming didn't stand on ceremony. With a wave of his hand, he put away the 3 redbud orchids. Next, everyone continued to head towards 5 Yuan Mountain. Along the way, they obtained a few more saintly medicines, which they divided equally among themselves. Whoosh! Suddenly, a terrifying beam of light shot toward Han Zhong from the mountain peak ahead. Retreat! Han Zhong's expression changed drastically as he retreated at top speed. Boom! The place where he had been standing suddenly exploded, and a large hole appeared. Whoosh! Whoosh! There were a total of 5 or 6 figures rushing towards them from all directions. Their cold, murderous intent sent chills down their spines. Not good, it's his treasure-seeking group. Let's go. Let's go. Han Zhong roared and retreated with the others. Treasure-hunting groups would enter various famous mountains and great rivers to search for sacred herbs and spirit herbs. In fact, their greatest danger was not the demonic beasts, but the people of other treasure-hunting groups. If they encountered a powerful treasure-hunting group in the wild, the other party would most likely kill them and steal their treasures. It was obvious that they had stumbled into such a treasure-hunting group. Han Zhong and the others retreated, but their speed was extremely fast. Bang! A terrifying palm print as large as a mountain was thrown in their direction, encapsulating Han Zhong and the others within it. Han Zhong, 2 bulky men, and a middle-aged woman yelled as they tried to resist the palm print. However, Han Zhong was fine as he was only knocked a few steps backward. The others were knocked backward while vomiting blood. 4th layer martial dominator realm. Han Zhong let out a roar. Bang! Bang! 6 figures surrounded them from all directions, each emitting a terrifying aura. 3 3rd-layer martial dominators, 2 4th-layer martial dominators, and 1 5th-layer martial dominator realm. Lu Ming could easily sense the other party's ability. 5th-layer martial dominator realm. Han Zhong felt despair. Kill! The 5th-layer martial dominator realm expert slashed at Han Zhong with a saber in his hand. There was no way Han Zhong could resist the slash. Han Zhong and the others were filled with despair. However, at that instant, Lu Ming's figure suddenly appeared in front of Han Zhong and slashed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming! Han Zhong was astounded. Even though Lu Ming's cultivation was quite impressive, there was no way he could resist the slash. He would only be courting death if he tried to stop Han Zhong. However, he was stunned the next moment. Lu Ming stretched out 2 fingers and with a gentle pinch, he caught the saber between his fingers. That saber stopped in Lu Ming's hand, unable to move at all. Han Zhong, the 2 bulky men, and the middle-aged woman stared with their eyes wide open. That was a slash from a 5th-layer martial dominator realm expert. A 3rd-layer martial dominator would be killed by the slash, and a 4th-layer martial dominator realm expert would be severely injured. However, Lu Ming had easily caught the saber with 2 fingers. What kind of cultivation was that? What kind of strength was that? The people on the other side stared with their mouths open wide. The 5th-layer martial dominator was even more terrified. He was well aware of the power of his slash, but Lu Ming's fingers were as steady as Mount Tai. No matter how hard he tried, he could not move the saber at all. Run, leave at once. The 5th-layer martial dominator let out a roar. He knew that he had stumbled into a terrifying expert. If he did not leave now, he would die. He immediately let go of the saber and fled from the scene. It's too late to back off now, Lu Ming calmly said as he pinched the saber with his fingers. Clank! The battle saber directly shattered into 6 pieces and shot out explosively. Each piece was aimed at one of the opponents. Puff! 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 Blood splattered everywhere. The 6 experts, whether they were in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th LV, were all pierced through by the fragments of the saber and died on the spot. Han Zhong, the 2 bulky men, and the middle-aged woman stared at the scene with their eyes open wide. Among the 6 cultivators, even the weakest one was on par with Han Zhong, but he had just been killed by Lu Ming in an instant. Lu Ming did not even move from his spot. They could feel a chill running down their spines, as they realized that they had stumbled into a terrifying genius. What was Lu Ming's cultivation? 7th layer Martial Dominator Realm, 8th layer Martial Dominator Realm, or even higher. It took them quite a while to collect their thoughts. Lu Ming, it's my fault. Please forgive me. One of the bulky men in particular apologized to Lu Ming with a reddened face. Previously, he had mocked Lu Ming for being too full of himself as he was not willing to join them. However, he now realized that Lu Ming was not being full of himself. It was obvious that he had the strength to back it up, and that he was not interested in them at all. Their strength was not helpful to Lu Ming at all. Lu Ming smiled faintly, not bothered at all. He waved his hand and collected the storage rings of the 6 cultivators, before saying, "Let's go to Wuyuan Mountain." The group continued their journey toward Wuyuan Mountain. However, Han Zhong and his crew's attitude toward Lu Ming and Qiu Qiumun underwent a great change, as they were now extremely respectful toward them. After passing through a few mountain ranges, a giant mountain appeared before them, piercing through the clouds. Chapter 2169. Even from afar, Lu Ming could see that there was a big tree at the top of Mount Wuyuan. It was glowing like a divine tree. On the branches of the big tree, there were 9 fruits. They were as red as fire jade and had a medicinal fragrance. Those were the Holy Spirit fruits, but they were not ripe yet. Figures could be seen flashing around the mountain from time to time. They were all treasure hunting groups. However, the Holy Spirit fruits were not ripe yet. Unripe Holy Spirit fruits were useless, so everyone was waiting for the Holy Spirit fruits to ripen. Lu Ming and the others also flew forward. Boom. Ah. A fierce battle broke out in the forest in front of them. 2 treasure hunting groups were fighting each other, and people were killed from time to time. Not long after, one of the treasure hunting groups was killed. His storage ring was taken away, and his corpse was left there forever. The victorious treasure hunting group also noticed Lu Ming and the others. They glanced at them coldly, then left in a flash. As they approached Mount Wuyuan, more and more treasure hunting groups appeared. Lu Ming spread out his spiritual consciousness and found at least 100 treasure hunting groups. There were more than 1,000 of them. These people looked at each other coldly and did not make a move. Obviously, they were waiting for the Holy Spirit fruits to ripen. Once the Holy Spirit fruits ripened, there would be a fierce battle. But for the Holy Spirit fruits, everything was worth it. 1 Holy Spirit fruit could create a Saint Realm elite. 9 Holy Spirit fruits were equivalent to 9 Saint Realm experts. Although the world had changed and everyone's cultivation had skyrocketed, the Saint Realm was still very rare. Every Saint Realm elite was a top elite. Of course, this did not include the elites from Yuanlu, but only those from Divine Wilderness Continent. The elites from Yuanlu were too strong, and could not be compared at all. Suddenly, a group of people stepped toward Lu Ming and the others. There were more than a dozen of them. Their auras were violent, and every one of them was an elite. This was a very powerful treasure hunting group. You're such a weak treasure hunting group, and you want to fight for the Holy Spirit fruits? You don't know what's good for you. Hand over your storage rings and get lost. A strong man in his 30s scolded. The faces of Han Zhong and the others turned pale. This treasure hunting group was too strong. They were clearly much stronger than the treasure hunting group that had ambushed them before. Faced with such a treasure hunting group, they had no other choice but to agree to the other party's request. They couldn't help but look at Lu Ming. They hoped that Lu Ming could create a miracle because they were unwilling to hand over their storage rings. The loot in the storage ring was exchanged with their lives. What? Hand over your storage rings. Do you want to die? The burly man's voice turned cold. The other members of the treasure-seeking group watched with cold smiles on their faces. Treasure hunting groups were a profession that had only appeared in recent years. They traveled through various dangerous famous mountains and great rivers, and were accustomed to life and death battles. Without strength, only death awaited. Scram. At this moment, an icy cold voice sounded. It was from Lu Ming. The burly man was stunned. He looked at Lu Ming, thinking that he had misheard. This brat actually told him to scram? Could it be that he had gone mad? Boom. A powerful aura erupted from his body. 7th layer Martial Dominator Realm. The burly man possessed a cultivation of the 7th layer Martial Dominator Realm. The terrifying pressure caused the expressions of the other treasure-hunting groups to change. Many of them revealed grave expressions. A seventh-layer martial dominator realm cultivator was considered one of the top experts in the treasure-hunting group. The pressure of the seventh-layer martial dominator realm continued to suppress Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and Qiu Qiuyu remained calm. Meanwhile, Han Zhong and the others were startled. Their figures began to tremble, as if they were being crushed by a huge mountain. Kitdai. The burly man let out a roar and threw a punch in Lu Ming's direction. "You're the one that's going to die," Lu Ming said calmly. His eyes flickered with a deathly glow. Following this, a deathly aura appeared from the burly man's figure and encapsulated his figure. The burly man let out a deafening roar before his figure turned into ashes and disappeared under the crowd's astonished gaze. Hiss, gasps could be heard. A seventh-layer martial dominator realm expert had been killed and turned into ashes. Most importantly, no one had seen how Lu Ming had done it. Gulp. Han Zhong and the others swallowed their saliva in astonishment. It seemed like Lu Ming's strength had exceeded their expectations. "Do you want to die too?" Lu Ming looked at the remaining members of the treasure-hunting group. Their faces changed drastically as they retreated frantically. In the blink of an eye, they had disappeared. None of them dared to attack. The rest of the people looked at Lu Ming with awe and respect. This was the result that Lu Ming wanted. In this way, the others would not dare to target them, and it would save them a lot of trouble. "Who is this young man? I've never seen him before. What terrifying strength. Could he be an expert from Yuanlu? Impossible. Everyone from Yuanlu is extremely terrifying. Ordinary Saint Realm experts are like ants in front of them. There are no weaklings." "That's right. However, this young man has such strength despite his young age. Could he be one of the top 10 geniuses of Divine Wilderness Continent?" "No, I've seen all of the top 10 geniuses. There's no such person." Some people whispered among themselves. Top 10 geniuses. Lu Ming revealed a hint of interest. The crowd continued to wait. Moo, moo. Suddenly, the deafening roar of a bull could be heard in the distant sky. Then the crowd saw 5 or 6 giant bulls as big as mountains running towards them. The void rumbled as they stepped on it. There were only 5 or 6 bulls, but they were like an army of thousands of men and horses. The 5 or 6 giant bulls were unbelievably fast. In the blink of an eye, they were above Mount Wuyuan. Then the bodies of the giant bulls changed rapidly, turning into 6 burly men. A terrifying aura erupted from them, causing everyone's expression to change drastically. "It's the experts of Divine Bull Palace," someone exclaimed in fear. Roar, roar. At that moment, the roar of a beast could be heard from another direction. The crowd saw a few giant wolves pulling a chariot over. In the blink of an eye, they were above Mount Wuyuan. In the chariot, there were 7 burly men wearing beast skins. "It's the people from Barbarian Dragon Palace," someone exclaimed. "Boundary Emperor, complete Saint Realm." Lu Ming's eyes shone brightly. He could tell the cultivation of these people at a glance. Half of them were Boundary Emperors, while the rest were complete Saint Realm experts. They were definitely not from Divine Wilderness Continent. Divine Wilderness Continent had only been revived for less than 10 years. It was impossible for such a powerful existence to be born. These people were most likely from Yuanlu. What surprised Lu Ming was that these people were not from Song State, Emperor State, or Yun State. Could it be that there are other places besides Song State, Yun State, and Emperor State that have teleportation formations that lead to Divine Ruins Continent? Chapter 2170. Lu Ming immediately asked Han Zhong how many forces from the Yuan continent there were in the Divine region. Han Zhong told him that there were a total of 3 forces from the Yuan continent. Each of them was very powerful and had terrifying commanders. They were all high and mighty martial emperors. The 3 factions each occupied an area and divided the Divine Wilderness continent. Among them, the Divine Bull Palace occupied the best position, and a part of the Eastern Wilderness and Central Continent. The Barbarian Dragon Palace and the Monarch race occupied other regions. The Monarch race occupied most of the Central Continent. For example, the Dragon Alliance's Dragon Emperor City was under the control of the monarch race. The monarch race. Lu Ming's eyes shone brightly. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, in the distant sky, more beams of light shot over, and one figure after another appeared in the sky. A few of them were wearing emperor robes and jade crowns, making them look like emperors. There were also a few who were especially burly. They were covered in a thick layer of iron armor, and were surrounded by a black light. It was impossible to see their faces clearly. The monarch race and the evil god race. The murderous intent in Lu Ming's eyes intensified. It was really the monarch race. It seemed that Di Shi had really come to the divine region. As for those who were covered in iron armor, others could not see through them. However, Lu Ming could see that they were from the evil god race. It was obvious that Di Shi had brought a group of experts to the divine region and occupied a large area. Even the Dragon Emperor city was occupied by Di Shi. I heard that the overlord De came from the monarch race. Han Zhong said softly. I didn't expect you to come too. A burly man from the Divine Bull Palace said. These 9 Saint Spirit fruits are not bad. The monarch race wants them. A person from the monarch race said. You want them? What a joke. These 9 Saint Spirit fruits belong to the barbarian Dragon Palace. A burly man from the Full Dragon Palace said. Powerful auras burst out from the 3 forces. They each occupied a region and confronted each other. All the people in the treasure hunting group sighed. They knew that they had no hope against the arrival of the experts from the 3 major forces of the Yuan continent. These people were too strong. Any one of them could defeat all of them. What do these paragon saints and boundary emperors want the Saint Spirit fruits for? Lu Ming was somewhat puzzled. The Holy Spirit fruit might be rare, but it wasn't of much use to paragon saints or quasi-emperors, unless it was used to nurture the younger generation. These lowly ants are really an eyesore here. Why don't we get rid of them first? At this time, someone from an emperor clan swept his eyes over everyone from the treasure-seeking group, carrying a trace of arrogance, as well as a trace of disgust. The divine wilderness continent was just a corner of the barren land. In their eyes, it was as lowly as an ant. That's good too, lest these people get in the way here. Someone from the Divine Ox Palace also said lightly. Not good. The expressions of everyone in the treasure hunting group changed drastically. Senior, we have no intention of fighting over the Holy Spirit fruit with you. We will leave immediately. Senior, we're leaving right away. Many people cried out in fear as they frantically retreated. Fighting with us for the Holy Spirit fruit? Are you ants even qualified? An Emperor clan expert sneered, walking over. With a wave of his hand, a resplendent sword light erupted, hacking towards a certain direction. Help! Don't! Screams came from that direction. There was no way to resist. Regardless of their cultivation base, they were instantly killed. In an instant, more than a dozen people were killed. Ha ha ha! The Emperor clan expert laughed loudly. In their eyes, the people of the divine wilderness continent were not humans, but ants that could be killed at will. Bang! The Divine Ox Palace expert also stepped out, intending to attack. Let's go, Lu Ming, let's go. Han Zhong's expression changed drastically as he roared. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. At the top of Wuyuan Mountain, the big tree emitted a resplendent light. Among them, the light of the 9 Holy Spirit fruits was even more brilliant. Rays of multicolored light circulated, and an incomparably rich medicinal fragrance spread in all directions. The Holy Spirit fruit was about to ripen. The Emperor clan experts and the Divine Ox Palace experts retracted their steps and looked at the Holy Spirit fruit. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief, knowing that they were saved. The Yuan continent experts no longer had the intention to deal with them. The Holy Spirit fruit is ours. The Emperor clan experts pounced on the Holy Spirit fruit tree. Get lost! The Divine Ox Palace and the Barbarian Dragon Palace experts also charged over. Boom! Boom! In order to compete for the Holy Spirit fruit, the 3 forces fell into a chaotic battle. A terrifying battle broke out in the sky above Wuyuan Mountain. How terrifying! Are these the top existences of the Saint Realm? They're too strong. I heard that the Saint Realm is divided into Bright Saints, Supreme Saints, Absolute Saints, and Quasi-Emperors. Above quasi-emperors are martial emperors. These people are all absolute saints and quasi-emperors. That's right. Quasi-emperors can form a river of laws. The experts of the Yuan continent are too strong. Many people shouted. Back then, no one in the Divine Wilderness continent knew about this. At that time, a first-level martial emperor was an overlord. Third-level martial emperors were legends. Not to mention the Saint Realm. In everyone's impression, the Saint Realm was a legend. No one knew the specific divisions of the Saint Realm. But now, with the recovery of the world, everyone's cultivation had skyrocketed. At the same time, the experts of the Yuan continent had descended. Naturally, news of the higher realms of martial arts had spread. The battle between the three forces was extremely intense. Lu Ming, let's take this opportunity to leave. Han Zhong was kind. He wanted to tell Lu Ming and the others to leave quickly. If the three forces were to emerge victorious, they would be finished. Let's go. We're here for the Holy Spirit fruit. The Holy Spirit fruit has ripened. Wouldn't it be a pity if we leave without plucking a few? Lu Ming smiled. Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of Han Zhong and the others, he walked toward the Holy Spirit fruit tree. Autumn Moon followed closely behind Lu Ming. Han Zhong and the others were tongue-tied. They were completely stunned. Facing the experts of the three forces, Lu Ming wanted to pluck the Holy Spirit fruit. This was an act of courting death. He was definitely courting death. The three forces were from the Yuan continent. Some of them were quasi-emperors. They were so strong that they could kill them with a single breath. No matter how strong Lu Ming was, it was impossible for him to be a match for the absolute saints and quasi-emperors. It was impossible. The strongest experts of the Divine Wilderness continent had just broken through to the Bright Saint Realm. They were too far away from the people of the Yuan continent. Even if Lu Ming was from the Yuan continent, how could he compete with quasi-emperors at such a young age? They weren't the only ones. When the other treasure hunters saw Lu Ming and Autumn Moon walking toward the Holy Spirit fruit tree, they were all stunned. What are those two doing? Are they trying to fish in troubled waters and pluck the Holy Spirit fruit? They're courting death. They're courting death. They must be blind. They're crazy. Everyone thought that Lu Ming was courting death. He was dead meat. Plucking the Holy Spirit fruit right under the nose of the absolute saints and quasi-emperors was courting death. Chapter 2171. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they were close to the Holy Spirit fruit tree. Lu Ming stretched out a hand. With a grab, a huge hand condensed and grabbed a Holy Spirit fruit, putting it away. Then he reached for the second one. You're courting death. An elite of the monarch race shouted and slashed a sword light at Lu Ming. That was an elite of the great circle of the absolute saint realm. In the eyes of everyone in the Divine Wilderness continent, that sword was extremely terrifying. It was impossible to resist. Even if one was swept by the sword light, one would be smashed to pieces. That kid is dead meat. Someone sneered. Han Zhong and the other three shook their heads and sighed. But in the next moment, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Lu Ming did not even bother to look at it. With a slap, he smashed the sword gleam into smithereens. Then he took the opportunity to grab another Holy Spirit fruit with his palm. He blocked it. No, he didn't block it. He shattered the sword light. Everyone had a dumbfounded expression on their faces. Han Zhong and the other three were the same. Not only did Lu Ming block the sword light, but he also shattered it with a palm. It seemed easy. The elite of the monarch race narrowed his eyes, and then burst out cold murderous intent. Kill. He abandoned his opponent and charged at Lu Ming with the Emperor sword in his hand. The sword light rushed into the sky and slashed at Lu Ming. Phantom Spirit. Lu Ming whispered. He stepped in the void and endless runes appeared. Then, these runes turned into a black shadow like a Grim Reaper holding a Grim Reaper scythe. It was really the law of Array Dao, the Phantom Spirit Scroll. The Phantom Spirit Scroll could transform into any creature. Lu Ming used the Phantom Spirit Scroll to transform into a Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper held the Grim Reaper scythe and slashed at the elite of the monarch race. The first slash made the elite of the monarch race retreat and vomit blood. The second slash made the elite of the monarch race lose his head. Gulp. Gulp. The sound of saliva being swallowed was heard. Everyone was truly stunned. The scene was deathly silent. In the eyes of the people of the divine barren continent, an expert of the complete saint realm was invincible. But now he had been killed by Lu Ming's Grim Reaper with 2 slashes. What kind of battle prowess was this? Could this young man be a quasi-emperor? This scene caused the people from the other 3 factions of Yuan continent to reveal grave expressions. Lu Ming grabbed the 3rd Holy Spirit fruit after killing one of the D clan members. Everyone, why don't we join forces and kill this person before fighting for the Holy Spirit fruit? A quasi-emperor from the Emperor clan spoke. That's exactly what I was thinking. This person is too arrogant and doesn't put us in his eyes at all. He deserves to die. A person from the Divine Ox Palace said coldly. Soon, the 3 sides reached an agreement and stopped fighting. Then they suddenly charged towards Lu Ming. Brat, you dare to kill someone from my Emperor clan? Die. How dare you pluck the Holy Spirit fruit? Die. Kill. The experts from the Emperor clan, the Divine Ox Palace, and the Barbarian Dragon Palace all charged towards Lu Ming, including the quasi-emperors. Their power was terrifying to the extreme. Even if Lu Ming was a quasi-emperor, he would be instantly killed. However, although Lu Ming was a quasi-emperor, he was no ordinary quasi-emperor. Boom. Lu Ming unleashed his power and slashed out with his palm. This palm strike was like a heavenly blade that could even slice through space. One had to know that the current divine barren continent was no longer the same as before. The space was now incomparably stable, and was almost comparable to Yuan continent. Even a quasi-emperor could not break through space. Everyone's attacks were completely destroyed. A terrifying power surged out. Nearly 20 experts trembled violently and spat out large mouthfuls of blood. They were severely injured. A few of the weaker ones' bodies directly exploded. Phantom. Then Lu Ming stretched out his hand and pointed. Endless runes appeared and turned into dozens of Grim Reapers. These Grim Reapers were not purely formed from array laws. They also contained other laws. The dozens of Grim Reapers charged towards the people from the 3 factions. Blood splattered everywhere, and heads rolled. The people from the 3 factions were already severely injured by Lu Ming's move. How could they withstand the attacks of the Grim Reapers? They were instantly killed one by one. In just a few breaths, all the experts from the 3 factions were killed. Not a single one was left alive. Lu Ming also plucked the 9 Holy Spirit fruits one by one. It seems that the legend is wrong. A Holy Spirit fruit can't directly create a saint. Lu Ming grabbed the last Holy Spirit fruit and carefully sized it up. With Lu Ming's current insight and his understanding of alchemy laws, he could clearly see the medicinal effects of some sacred medicines. It was impossible for the Holy Spirit fruit to directly create a saint realm expert after consuming it, as the legend had it. However, if a 3rd stage half-saint consumed it, it could indeed increase the chances of becoming a saint and increase the chances of condensing a saint heart. Speaking of which, it was a rare and precious fruit. At this moment, everyone was petrified. Some people rubbed their eyes desperately, thinking that they were dreaming. The experts from the 3 factions from the Yuan continent, including many boundary emperors, were killed by Lu Ming just like that. In particular, Han Zhong and the other 3 were indescribably shocked. After all, Lu Ming had come with them. Especially the burly man, who had previously mocked Lu Ming. At this moment, he was drenched in cold sweat and had a lingering fear. If Lu Ming wanted to argue with him, he could kill him with a puff of his breath. Autumn Moon, let's go. Lu Ming smiled and walked away with Autumn Moon. When he passed by Han Zhong and the other 3, he waved his hand and a force wrapped around the 4 of them and brought them away. It took a while for the others to react. Instantly there was an uproar. They guessed that Lu Ming should be an expert from the Yuan continent. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to be so strong. However, they did not know Lu Ming's name. Therefore, the name Black-Faced Death God spread and shook the entire Divine Wilderness continent. Lu Ming led Han Zhong and the other 3 and traveled thousands of miles in an instant. They only stopped when they were out of the mountain range. Alright, it's safe here. Lu Ming left these words behind and left with Autumn Moon. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared. Han Zhong and the other three were in a daze. Then they sighed. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon headed south. Soon, they left the northern plains and arrived at the middle continent. The middle continent was extremely prosperous. Large cities stood between the heavens and the earth. This was not there in the past. Clearly, it was built in recent years. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon found a large city and walked in. Lu Ming wanted to find out about the current situation of the Dragon Alliance and how the members of the Dragon Alliance were doing. The best place to find out was a restaurant. This was a human characteristic. In a restaurant, one could reveal many secrets while eating, drinking, and chatting. Lu Ming and Autumn Moon walked into a large restaurant. They ordered some food and wine and started eating. Lu Ming spread out his spiritual consciousness and eavesdropped on the conversations of others. Chapter 2172. Voices entered Lu Ming's ears one after another. It's really a great era now. The world has changed, precious herbs are everywhere, and experts are emerging in large numbers. My cultivation can also break through to the martial emperor realm. An old man with snow-white hair sighed with a complicated expression. Originally, with his talent, he could only break through to the spirit god realm, and didn't have much lifespan left. However, when he was about to die, the world had changed and everything had recovered. His cultivation had also advanced by leaps and bounds. He had even broken through to the martial emperor realm not long ago, and his lifespan had increased greatly. How could he not sigh? The world was now rich in origin qi. Not only had the cultivation speed increased greatly, but there were also some sacred fruits that could transform one's bloodline and achieve evolution. It could be said to be terrifying. However, there were only a few of those sacred herbs. Still, many people had obtained them and their talents had increased greatly. Yeah, the cultivation environment now is too good. It was unimaginable in the past. Didn't you see that even the experts of Yuanlu have come to occupy the territory? Speaking of which, there's a big event that will start soon. It's about the three major forces of Yuanlu. I heard that the three major forces of Yuanlu will have a battle in 3 months to redivide the territory. Is there such a thing? Many people in the restaurant were shocked. I heard it through the grapevine. It's probably going to be made public soon. There's no doubt that the Eastern Wilderness has the best environment. Many people are coveting it. Now it's occupied by the Divine Bull Palace. The Monarch Clan and the Barbarian Dragon Palace both want to occupy the Eastern Wilderness. There will definitely be a battle. That's right. However, the three major forces of Yuanlu seem to have similar strength. Once the battle starts, there will be heavy casualties. No. I heard that the three major forces will use a special method this time. The three major forces will send out their young geniuses to fight. Moreover, they must be the local geniuses of Divine Wilderness. The division of territory will be decided according to their achievements. There's actually such a thing? A battle between the local geniuses of Divine Wilderness? Looks like there'll be a good show in 3 months. Many people in the restaurant were interested and gathered around the person who knew the grapevine. Being surrounded by so many people, that person enjoyed it very much. He rattled on and on, talking a bunch more. That person said that the battle in 3 months would most likely be held in the former headquarters of the Dragon Alliance, the Dragon Emperor City. Currently, the Dragon Emperor City was occupied by Indra. I wonder about Dad and Mom. Are they in Dragon Emperor City? A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. He was also worried. Speaking of geniuses, the Divine Wilderness is now filled with geniuses. Especially the top 10 geniuses. They are all dragons and phoenixes among men. Their cultivations are unfathomable. That's right. It's said that the top 10 prodigies are all disciples of Yuan Land's experts. How can they not be strong? Especially the number 1 prodigy, Ren Qianxing. He's an unrivaled prodigy that's rarely seen in all of history. His talent is unparalleled, and even Sakra Buddha has personally taken him in as a disciple. Yes, speaking of Ren Qianxing, this child is indeed shocking. No one can compare to him now. In my opinion, only the leader of the Dragon Alliance, Lu Ming, can compare to Ren Qianxing. Indeed, everyone continued to discuss. Towards the end, the topic actually shifted to Lu Ming. They were completely unaware that the main character was sitting right there. Humph, a bunch of ignorant people. What do you know? At this moment, a cold laugh resounded throughout the restaurant. Then, a young man walked out of one of the private rooms. This person was skinny and his eyes were long and narrow. As he blinked, a sharp glint flashed across his eyes. Young master, what do you think? The old man who had been discussing just now cupped his fists and asked. A bunch of fools. How dare you talk about the heroes of the world? Who does Lu Ming think he is? How can he be compared to Ren Qianxing? He's not even fit to carry Ren Qianxing's shoes. Let's not talk about Ren Qianxing. Which one of the top 10 prodigies can compare to Lu Ming? The skinny young man sneered. Everyone else's expression changed. However, when they thought about it, things were different now. Back then, what was Lu Ming's cultivation level? He hadn't even broken through to the martial emperor realm. Now, the top 10 prodigies' cultivation levels were unfathomable. It was said that many of them had reached the sage-to-be realm. The difference was too great. The achievements of these prodigies were indeed far above Lu Ming's. Humph, if Lu Ming was still here, any one of the top 10 prodigies would be able to suppress him. The skinny young man said again. You're boasting shamelessly. The leader of the Dragon Alliance is the best of all time. How can those so-called prodigies be compared to the leader of the Dragon Alliance? What a joke. At that moment, a cold voice was heard. Who is it? Come out. The skinny young man shouted coldly. Then, footsteps were heard from the stairs of the restaurant. A young man and a young woman walked up. Xiaoshan Xiaorou. Lu Ming's eyes lit up in surprise. The young man and woman were Lu Ming's in-name disciples, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou. What a coincidence. He didn't expect to meet them here. After more than 10 years, the two of them had matured a lot. They looked like they were in their 20s and had extraordinary auras. However, the two of them both had angry expressions on their faces. They were furious that Lu Ming had been humiliated. Who are you? The skinny young man asked with a cold smile. Zhuang Xiaoshan. Zhuang Xiaorou. The two of them reported their names. So it's you. The two disciples of the legendary Lu Ming. Hee, what's the matter? Are you trying to avenge your master? However, I'm telling the truth. Your master might have been good in the past, but now he's just average. How can he be compared to the current top 10 elites? The skinny young man sneered and his voice was filled with mockery. Before the world changed, my master came from a remote place in the eastern wilderness. He went against the flow and fought against the heroes of the world. In the end, he defeated all the overlords of the divine region and created the Dragon Alliance. Such a battle record has never been seen before. Who can compare to him? The so-called 10 great prodigies are merely relying on the good environment and the guidance of Yuanlu's experts to have some achievements. Compared to my master, they are nothing. Zhuang Xiaoshan said loudly. How dare you? The skinny young man shouted and his body emitted a cold murderous intent. Kneel down and slap your own mouth. Take back what you just said. Hee, I'm just telling the truth. If my master hadn't left, there wouldn't be any top 10 elites. When my master was still around, Ren Qianxing was nothing. He didn't even have the right to meet my master. Zhuang Xiaoshan sneered and stood straight. He was not afraid of the skinny young man. You really know how to flatter yourself. Today, I, Li Ku, will have a taste of the skills of the Dragon Alliance leader's disciple. The skinny young man's face turned colder and his murderous intent flashed. His cold aura caused the temperature in the restaurant to drop rapidly. What? He's Li Ku, one of the top 10 elites. After the skinny young man said his name, someone exclaimed. This skinny young man was one of the top 10 elites. No wonder he was furious when Zhuang Xiaoshan said that the top 10 elites were not as good as Lu Ming. I heard that Li Ku is Ren Qianxing's loyal supporter and has a good relationship with him. Someone said softly. Chapter 2173. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaorou knew that the top 10 elites of the Divine Wilderness were all very talented. Most importantly, they were disciples of the elites of Yuan continent and had cultivated powerful realm martial techniques. Their combat strength was unfathomable, and they might not be able to defeat them. However, They had no choice but to fight now that Lu Ming's reputation was at stake. Let's go out and fight, Zhuang Xiaoshan said. He then flew out of the window in a flash. Zhuang Xiao followed him. Hee. Li Ke's eyes flashed coldly as he flew out as well. Let's go and have a look. The people in the restaurant also flew out one after another, wanting to go and watch the show. Autumn Moon, let's go out as well, Lu Ming said to Autumn Moon. Autumn Moon nodded, and the two of them flew out of the restaurant. Lu Ming knew that Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao were no match for Li Ke. Currently, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao's cultivation were rank 8 martial royal realm. Compared to back then, he was already many times stronger. Originally, it would have been difficult for them to reach this stage with their talents. However, the world had changed. When the world had changed, the elites of Yuan continent had yet to arrive. The Dragon Alliance was the ruler of the divine wilderness, and they must have obtained many sacred medicine spiritual roots. As Lu Ming's unofficial disciples, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao must have obtained a lot of benefits. It was not surprising that their cultivation had reached this stage. However, Li Ke was more powerful. He was a rank 1 sage to be and was much stronger than the two of them. Zhuang Xiaoshan, Zhuang Xiao and Li Ke stood facing each other in the sky. They were surrounded by people. Many people became interested when they heard that Li Ke was one of the top 10 elites and Lu Ming's disciple was one of the Dragon Alliance's former leader. The two of you attacked together. Let's end this quickly. I'm going to have a drink, Li Ke said confidently. I'll fight you alone. Zhuang Xiaoshan stepped forward and a long spear appeared in his hand. Boom. He pressed the long spear down, and the realm of earth spread out toward Li Ke. Insignificant skill. Li Ke sneered. The sword light in his hand exploded and soared into the sky, slashing out. Zhuang Xiaoshan's earth domain was split apart by Li Ke's sword light. Zhuang Xiaoshan retreated quickly, but there was still a sword wound on his chest that was bleeding profusely. One move and Zhuang Xiaoshan was injured. Ha ha ha, what a piece of trash. You can't even block a single move. So this is Lu Ming's disciple. You can see that Lu Ming isn't that great. You guys even bragged about how powerful he is. Li Ke laughed mockingly. You're not allowed to insult my master. My talent is foolish, not even a 10,000th of my master's. Zhuang Xiaoshan shouted as his eyes turned red. You're still bragging. I said, both of you can come at me together. Li Ke looked at Zhuang Xiao and said disdainfully. Zhuang Xiao stepped forward and stood beside Zhuang Xiaoshan. Boom, boom. The two sides started fighting again. This time, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao joined forces to fight Li Ke. However, they were still no match for him. In just a few moves, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao were defeated. Ha ha ha, what a piece of trash. Even if your master is here, he won't be a match for me. Li Ke laughed maniacally. Shut up. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao shouted. How dare you be so arrogant after being defeated? Today I'll cripple the both of you and turn you into a real piece of trash. Li Ke's eyes turned cold as he charged towards Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao. His sword light was powerful. I'll fight you to the death. Zhuang Xiaoshan roared and swept out with his spear. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down. Xiaoshan Xiao, your talent is still too weak. In the crowd, Lu Ming shook his head. Then he took a step forward and a surge of energy silently entered Zhuang Xiaoshan's body. Other than Qiu Autumn Moon, no one else noticed this. Child's play break. Li Ke shouted arrogantly as his sword light burst forth. He wanted to break Zhuang Xiao's spear attack and cripple Zhuang Xiaoshan. Boom. Suddenly, Zhuang Xiaoshan's spear attack increased in power. The spear light became 1,000 meters long and pressed down on Li Ke like a mountain range. Li Ke's sword light was like a candle flame that was extinguished as soon as it appeared. How is this possible? Ah! Li Ke screamed in disbelief. Then, Zhuang Xiao's spear attack pressed down on Li Ke, and he fell to the ground like a dead dog. A huge pit was formed as he lay there and vomited blood. What's going on? Zhuang Xiaoshan was stunned. He suddenly felt a surge of energy entering his body and increasing his strength. Someone is helping me. Zhuang Xiaoshan immediately thought of this. Zhuang Xiao, who was beside him, was also stunned. When did Zhuang Xiaoshan become so powerful all of a sudden? Around them, The others were also dumbfounded. Just a moment ago, Zhuang Xiaoshan was completely suppressed by Li Ke. How did Zhuang Xiaoshan become a different person in the blink of an eye? He completely suppressed Li Ke and severely injured him. What's going on? Boom. How could Zhuang Xiaoshan miss such an opportunity? He took a step forward and a terrifying force pressed down on Li Ke. Li Ke screamed and used all his strength to defend himself. However, Zhuang Xiaoshan was now supported by Lu Ming's strength. How could he defend himself? The powerful force was like an ancient mountain pressing down on Li Ke. Li Ke was like a toad with his 4 limbs on the ground. He kept twisting, but it was useless. Under the pressure of the force, he screamed and vomited blood. He was in a terrible state. Who is it? Who is helping him? My master is a boundary emperor from the monarch race. Who are you? Tell me your name. Li Ke screamed. He was not stupid. He immediately realized that there must be an expert secretly helping Zhuang Xiaoshan. Otherwise, Zhuang Xiaoshan's strength would not have increased so much. The spectators around them were also stunned. It was most likely that someone was secretly helping Zhuang Xiaoshan. Who is it? Come out if you have the ability. Those who dare to go against the monarch race will not have a good ending. Li Ke screamed. He, you are a person from the divine wilderness continent. When did you become a member of the monarch race? Perhaps, you are just a dog of the monarch race? A faint voice sounded and Lu Ming stepped forward. You are the one who attacked? Li Ke glared at Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled faintly. It was equivalent to admitting it. You dare to go against the monarch race? The monarch race will not let you go. Li Ke screamed. I will visit the monarch race sooner or later. Tell Di Shirtian to wash his neck and wait. Lu Ming said coldly with killing intent. Many people were shocked. Lu Ming was too arrogant. Tell Di Shirtian to wash his neck and wait. Who was Di Shirtian? He was a martial emperor expert, a peerless expert from the Yuan continent. This dark-skinned young man was too arrogant. Also, 3 months later, the two of them will challenge you in the Imperial Dragon City. They will defeat you with their own cultivation. So, I will not kill you today. Get lost. Chapter 2174. Many people turned to look at Lu Ming. Lu Ming looked very young, but his strength was unfathomable. Previously, he secretly helped Zhuang Xiaoshan, and was able to crush Li Ke. How strong was his cultivation? However, his tone was too arrogant. He actually asked Sakura to wash his neck and wait for death. He was too arrogant. Many people secretly shook their heads, thinking that Lu Ming was just spouting nonsense. Thank you, Senior, for your help. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaro walked over and thanked Lu Ming. At the same time, they were also surprised. They had never seen Lu Ming before, so they didn't know why Lu Ming helped them. Follow me, Lu Ming said. After that, he turned around and walked out of the city. Qiu Yu followed Lu Ming. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaro looked at each other and followed Lu Ming obediently. Soon, they were out of the city and came to a remote place. There was no one here. At this moment, Lu Ming stopped and turned around. You two little guys, long time no see, Lu Ming said with a smile. Now he didn't disguise his voice and returned to his original voice. Hearing this voice, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao's body shook violently. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Then the disbelief turned into endless joy. Master. Master, is it really you? Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaro asked in surprise. Lu Ming smiled. His appearance began to change, and he returned to his original appearance. Looking at Lu Ming's appearance, which had not changed much over 10 years ago, the two of them trembled even more violently. Master, you're back. The two spoke incoherently, especially Zhuang Xiaro. She was so emotional that she cried. Still crying? How old are you now? Lu Ming smiled and wiped away Zhuang Xiao's tears. After a while, the two siblings finally calmed down. Master, when did you come back? Why didn't you tell us? Zhuang Xiaro smiled. I just came back not long ago. When I came back, I discovered that the world had changed greatly. I was afraid that you would be controlled by Yuan continent's experts, so I didn't transmit my voice to you. I wanted to secretly gather information. Lu Ming said and then asked, "What's the situation now? Are Xiaowan and the others okay? And my parents?" Senior Xiaowan and the others have always been controlled by the Emperor clan, forced to work for the Emperor clan. On the other hand, Grand Preceptor Master and Grand Preceptor Madam are fine. They are not far from here. Zhuang Xiaoshan said. The Grand Preceptor and Grand Preceptor Madam he was talking about were Lu Ming's parents. My parents are not far away? Lu Ming was delighted. Great Grand Preceptor Master and Great Grand Preceptor Master's cultivation base is relatively weak. Therefore, the Emperor clan didn't care about it, and left Dragon Emperor City long ago. Now they are together with Senior Motian and Kong Jin. Zhuang Xiaro said. Senior Motian Fatty. Let's go, take me there. Lu Ming said. Immediately, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaro led Lu Ming and Autumn Moon towards the south. On the way, Autumn Moon also returned to her original appearance. The Zhuang siblings were so surprised that they almost called Autumn Moon Grand Preceptor Madam. Later, they found out about Autumn Moon's true identity. On the way, Lu Ming asked the siblings about what had happened in the past few years. The siblings talked about it in detail, allowing Lu Ming to understand more about the situation in the Divine Wilderness continent. Soon they arrived at a mountain range. This mountain range was majestic and magnificent. They kept flying towards a valley. From afar, they could see a few wooden houses in the valley. Grand Preceptor Master, Grand Preceptor Madam. From afar, the Zhuang siblings shouted. From the wooden house, a figure walked out. From afar, Lu Ming saw his parents. It's Xiaoshan. Xiaro is back. Li Ping smiled. But in the next moment, Li Ping's voice stopped abruptly. She saw Lu Ming and couldn't take her eyes off him. At the same time, Lu Yintian also saw Lu Ming. Like Li Ping, he couldn't take his eyes off him. Minger, it's really you. Minger, you're back. Old man, help me take a look. Am I seeing things? Am I seeing Minger again? Li Ping muttered to herself. As she spoke, tears flowed down her cheeks. You're not seeing things. Minger is back. Lu Yintian said with a trembling voice. Lu Ming's nose turned sour. It had been more than 10 years since they had left in a hurry. In the martial world, the concept of time was different from ordinary people. Seclusion could last for a few years. However, after not seeing each other for more than 10 years, the two elders must have missed him very much. Moreover, Lu Ming was going to the Yuanlu continent alone. The dangers were unknown. It would be strange if they weren't worried. Father, mother. Lu Ming took a few steps forward and came to the two elders. Li Ping held Lu Ming's hand and looked at him carefully. She was completely speechless as tears flowed down her cheeks. I say, why are you crying? It's a good thing that Minger is back. Why are you crying? You're really a woman, Lu Yintian said. However, his eyes were also filled with tears. Ming, let your friend take a seat inside, Lu Yintian said as he looked at Autumn Moon. He was stunned when he saw her. Autumn Moon. Lu Yintian couldn't believe it. Li Ping also looked at Qiuyu. She was also stunned. Autumn Moon. It's really you. You're back too? Li Ping was extremely surprised. Autumn Moon's eyes were already filled with tears. She couldn't hold it in anymore. She rushed into Li Ping's arms and said, Madam, Master, Autumn Moon is back. Autumn Moon is back to see you. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Li Ping stroked Autumn Moon's hair and was extremely happy. In their hearts, Autumn Moon was like their daughter. However, it had been almost 20 years since they last saw each other. Naturally, they were excited to see each other again. After a long while, everyone calmed down. Li Ping pulled Qiuyu aside and asked her a lot of questions. Lu Ming, haha, it's really you. At this moment, two burly figures flew over. Lu Ming smiled when he saw them. Who else could it be if it wasn't Fatty Kong Jin? The other one was the demonic Sky Divine Emperor. Of course, Lu Ming found that the demonic Sky Divine Emperor was no longer an emperor. His cultivation had reached the minor achievement of the Bright Divine Realm. That made sense. When the origin chi was scarce, those who could break through to the martial emperor realm were definitely top-notch in terms of talent, wisdom, and perseverance. Moreover, at the beginning of the world's metamorphosis, Those martial emperors had an absolute advantage and could obtain a lot of resources. Therefore, it was not surprising that the demonic sky divine emperor had broken through to the sacred realm. Perhaps those emperors back then had all broken through to the sacred realm. As for Fatty Kongjin, his cultivation was also different from before. He had reached the third stage of the half-saint realm. However, his body had become even fatter. He looked like a meatball. Fatty, Lu Ming said with a smile. Ha ha. Come, give me a hug. The fatty dashed toward Lu Ming like a physical body. His fats wobbled like waves. Chapter 2175. In the valley, in front of the wooden house, everyone gathered around a stone table. Fatty took out a large amount of wine and delicacies, and everyone chatted while eating. Lu Ming learned that the demonic sky divine emperor was used to living in seclusion in the mountains. When he joined the Dragon Alliance, he did not stay in the Dragon Emperor city, but lived in seclusion in the mountains. Later, when the world changed, he brought Kong Jin with him, and obtained a large number of sacred herbs and strange fruits. His bloodline evolved and his cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. Because of this, when the Emperor race came, he was not in the Dragon Emperor city, so he was not controlled by the Emperor race. The Emperor race did not care about those with weaker cultivation, such as Li Ping and Lu Yuntian. Lu Ming, what's your realm now? The demonic sky divine emperor looked at Lu Ming, because he found that he could not see through Lu Ming's cultivation at all. At the same time, he could not see through Autumn Moon's cultivation at all. Boundary Emperor. Lu Ming did not hide it, and said bluntly. The demonic sky divine emperor, Li Ping, Lu Yuntian, and the others were silent for a moment before they were overjoyed. Lu Ming had reached the boundary emperor realm. In their eyes, it was unimaginable. Humph, that Li Ku said that master is not as good as them. They are not even worthy to carry master's shoes. Zhuang Xiaoshan said. Lu Ming, the gap between us is getting bigger and bigger. Kong Jin said with a bitter face, as if he had suffered a great blow. Autumn Moon has become an emperor. Lu Ming said all of a sudden. Then, she saw Kong Jin's entire body stiffen. His mouth was wide open and his pair of beady eyes were fixed on Xiuyu. The others were not any better. They were staring at Autumn Moon in shock. Autumn Moon had become an emperor. It was simply unimaginable. In their eyes, martial emperors were unsurpassed existences. However, there was a person sitting right beside them at that moment. I don't want to live anymore, Fatty wailed. Autumn Moon, you really became an emperor? Li Ping held Autumn Moon's hand excitedly. Now that the world had undergone a metamorphosis and all living things had awakened, the cultivation level of the divine wilderness had increased by several levels. Although Li Ping was born unable to cultivate, under the accumulation of countless resources, she had now reached the spirit sea realm. On the other hand, Lu Yuntian's cultivation was at the domain enlightened spirit god realm. So they naturally knew what the martial emperor realm represented. Autumn Moon's face flushed red. She was a little embarrassed. She whispered, although I've become an emperor, my strength is still far from young masters. Sai, I'm old, I'm really old. In the future, the world will belong to you young people. The Devil Sky Emperor sighed. Everyone drank and chatted, and a few hours passed quickly. For the next few days, Lu Ming would spend time with Lu Yuntian and Li Ping, chatting with the two elders. A few days later, Lu Ming called Kong Jin, Zhuang Xiaoshan, and Zhuang Xiaro to a nearby mountain peak. I've heard that the three great factions of the Yuan continent will have a duel in less than 3 months. Xiaoshan, Xiaoro, I've told you that you'll be able to defeat Li Ku in 3 months. Are you confident? Lu Ming said. Master, that Li Ku is at the first stage of the half-martial sacred realm. We're only at the 8th layer martial dominator realm. It's quite difficult to catch up to him in 3 months. Zhuang Xiaoshan said softly. He was being tactful. His and Zhuang Xiao's talents were average. Although their bloodlines had evolved after consuming the rare fruit, their bloodlines were only at the 7th grade divine realm. Over the years, they had refined many elixirs and sacred herbs to improve their cultivation. However, it was impossible for them to defeat Li Ku in 3 months. With me around, do you think you won't be able to catch up to Li Ku? Lu Ming glared at them. He then took out a jade bottle and tossed it to Zhuang Xiaoshan. There are top-grade nirvana pills inside. You and Xiaoro can refine them. One pill is enough to improve your bloodlines to the 9th grade divine realm. Thank you, Master. The siblings were overjoyed and bowed before Lu Ming. Naturally, they were pleasantly surprised. Lu Ming's first move was a peerless treasure pill. Although there were many mutant fruits in the world, and some of them could allow one's bloodline to evolve, there were too few of them. And now Lu Ming had given them an entire bottle. Lu Ming, do you have any pills that are suitable for me? The fatty rubbed his hands together in envy and stared at Lu Ming. His bloodline was already at the 8th grade divine realm. After consuming the rare fruit, it was now at the 9th grade divine realm. There was no need for him to improve his bloodline. Fatty, I'll help you rank up to the martial sacred realm in a few days. Lu Ming let out a smile. Rank up to the martial sacred realm in a few days? Are you serious? The fatty's eyes glistened. Of course, but it will be a little painful. Let's see if you can endure it. Lu Ming let out a smile. Of course, who am I? Master Kong Jin. The fatty patted his chest and the fat on his body rippled like water. All right. Lu Ming waved his hand, and the great pill derivation furnace appeared on the ground. Go in. Huh? Into the furnace? The fatty was dumbfounded. That's right. Go in and you'll rank up to the martial sacred realm in a few days. Lu Ming said. That's amazing. Here I come. The fatty jumped into the furnace. Lu Ming began to activate the furnace. Alchemy fire spread out and enveloped the fatty's body. Then, a scream like that of a pig being slaughtered came from the furnace. Oh, it hurt so much. Ah. The fatty screamed non-stop. Lu Ming continued to add sacred herbs and 2 Holy Spirit fruits into the furnace. The Holy Spirit fruit could increase the success rate of becoming a martial sacred, and make it easier for one to condense a martial sacred heart. Fatty, stop screaming. Focus on absorbing the energy and prepare for the breakthrough. Lu Ming said. The fatty endured the pain and began to cultivate. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro also ran to the side and swallowed a nirvana elixir each, and began to refine the elixir. 3 days later, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro's bloodline successfully evolved under the effects of the nirvana elixir and reached divine level 9. This time, Lu Ming bought a large number of nirvana elixirs, all of which were top-notch. Naturally, their bloodline evolved to the highest level. Nirvana elixir was a very cheap elixir in Yuan continent. However, it was a treasure in the divine wilderness continent. At the same time, the fatty's cultivation had reached a critical moment. Boom. A powerful aura came out from the great pill derivation furnace. The fatty rushed out of the furnace and floated in the air. His aura exploded wildly. Ha ha ha, I've broken through. I've finally broken through. I've become a martial sacred. The fatty could not stop laughing. He was so excited that he could die. Isn't that number 1 Sky Pride Ren Qianxing arrogant? The next time I see him, I'll chop him up with my axe. The fatty continued to laugh as if he was invincible. You've become a martial sacred? Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaoro were also shocked. Then their admiration for Lu Ming grew. After a while, the fatty finally calmed down and retracted his aura. Fatty, here's a divine power that suits your laws. Take it and cultivate. Chapter 2176. When he was in Yuanlu, Lu Ming had killed many strong enemies, especially in the ancient Moon Sacred Ground, where he had destroyed the Feng clan and 5 other powerful forces. Each of these forces had been around for countless years, and they had a lot of resources. Lu Ming had obtained a lot of resources. Elixirs, treasures, sacred weapons, emperor weapons, divine powers, and many more. There were various kinds of mystical abilities of laws inside. Lu Ming found a mystical ability that was suitable for the fatty and passed it to him. Fatty was overjoyed and took it happily. Then Lu Ming took out an axe, which was a great sacred weapon, and gave it to Fatty. Fatty was even more overjoyed. Although the world had changed, it was only because the origin chi was more abundant, and there were more sacred herbs and spiritual herbs, which made it easier to break through. However, divine powers and weapons were still the same as before. Many people did not have a suitable weapon after their cultivation had increased. After the fatty received it, his eyes narrowed into slits as he grinned. Then he ran off to the side and started cultivating. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao looked at Lu Ming eagerly. Both of you have refined a lot of sacred herbs in your bodies, but most of the medicinal effects are still in your bodies. This will be a huge hindrance to your cultivation in the future. Both of you enter the cauldron, and I will help you refine them. At the same time, it will increase the grade of your spirit bodies. Lu Ming said. The siblings were shocked. Even the grade of their spirit bodies could be increased? In the end, Zhuang Xiaoshan entered the cauldron first. Refine. Lu Ming controlled the law of alchemy and used the alchemy fire to refine Zhuang Xiaoshan's body. Now that Lu Ming's cultivation had increased and he could control the law of alchemy, it was easier for him to control the cauldron. The effects of the cauldron were many times stronger than before. Soon, the remaining medicinal effects in Zhuang Xiaoshan's body were completely refined by the alchemy fire. Afterward, Lu Ming added in the panacea. He used the medicinal effect of the panacea to temper and raise Zhuang Xiaoshan's spirit body level. The process was very painful, but Zhuang Xiaoshan gritted his teeth and endured it. This was because he could feel that his spiritual body was constantly improving. He was originally an ordinary spirit body, but now he was improving at a crazy speed. A day later, his spiritual body was upgraded to an inferior earth spiritual body. However, it was not over yet. The improvement was still ongoing. After a few more days, his spiritual body had risen to a high-grade spiritual body. At this moment, Lu Ming released Zhuang Xiaoshan. It couldn't be too long, or it would be harmful. My spirit body. Zhuang Xiaoshan sensed carefully and realized that his spirit body's power had increased tremendously. His combat power was several times stronger than before. Xiaoro, go in. Lu Ming looked at Zhuang Xiao. Zhuang Xiao also entered the Great Evolution Pill Furnace, and Lu Ming did the same. A few days later, Zhuang Xiao's spirit body also rose to a high-grade spirit body. Then he let Zhuang Xiaoshan in. After more than 20 days, the two spirit bodies rose to an inferior heaven spiritual body. Lu Ming sighed. The siblings' talent was limited. An inferior heaven spiritual body was their limit. It would be difficult for them to improve further, unless they had a heaven-defying opportunity. However, their cultivation was not over yet. This was because the Great Evolution Pill Furnace had another use. It could refine pills using the laws. It could also refine people using the laws, allowing them to comprehend the laws faster. As for Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao, they had not reached the martial saint realm, and had only comprehended the domain. In the past, Lu Ming could not use the Great Evolution Pill Furnace. However, now that Lu Ming had comprehended the laws of alchemy, he could do it. Then he let the siblings take turns to enter the Great Evolution Pill Furnace, and channel the power of the laws of heaven and earth into the furnace. The siblings' comprehension of the domain increased by leaps and bounds. Their cultivation base also advanced by leaps and bounds. During this time, Lu Ming also let Kong Jin enter the Great Evolution Pill Furnace to refine Kong Jin's spirit body and raise its grade. Kong Jin's talent was very high. His spirit body was raised to a medium heaven spiritual body before reaching its limit. Time flew by. 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. In these 3 months, Kong Jin, Zhuang Xiaoshan, and Zhuang Xiao's cultivation increased by leaps and bounds. Kong Jin's cultivation was at the Bright Saint realm, but his spirit body had reached the medium earth spiritual body. He also cultivated the divine power technique, and his strength had increased by many times. As for Zhuang Xiao and Zhuang Xiaoshan, their cultivation had increased from the 8th layer martial royal realm to the peak of the 1st stage half-saint realm. Together with their inferior heaven spiritual bodies, their battle strength was enough to crush a 2nd stage half-saint. They could even defeat a 3rd stage half-saint. The 3 of them were very confident. At that moment, the competition between the 3 forces of Yuanlu in order to fight for territory had begun. During this time, the demonic Sky Divine Emperor had gone out to investigate and had obtained a lot of information. The Monarch Race, Divine Bull Palace, and Barbarian Dragon Palace would compete for territory. This time, the competition would mainly be between the local geniuses of the Divine Wilderness continent. Among them, the strongest party could occupy the eastern wilderness. Now the eastern wilderness was undoubtedly the best place. And this time, the location was the Dragon Emperor City. This news had spread all over the world. During this time, countless people had rushed to the Dragon Emperor City to participate in this grand event. Lu Ming bade farewell to Li Ping and Lu Yintian. Then he led Kong Jin, Zhuang Xiaoshan, and Zhuang Xiao to the Dragon Emperor City. With Lu Ming's speed, they soon arrived at the Dragon Emperor City. The Dragon Emperor City was more majestic than before. Obviously, the Dragon Emperor City had been expanded over the years. Originally, there was a statue of Lu Ming in front of the Dragon Emperor City. However, this statue had long been torn down. The monarch race's people really deserved to die. They actually tore down Master's statue. Zhuang Xiaoshan was furious. Zhuang Xiao and Kong Jin's eyes were also burning with anger. Lu Ming was calm and he smiled faintly. This time he would take back the Dragon Emperor City. As for Sakura, it was time to deal with him. Around the Dragon Emperor City, countless figures flew towards the Dragon Emperor City. Lu Ming's group of 4 followed the crowd and entered the Dragon Emperor City. After entering the Dragon Emperor City, they found an inn to stay in. The battle between the 3 major forces of the Yuanlu would begin tomorrow. The 4 of them waited in the inn. At the same time, in a mansion in the depths of the Dragon Emperor City, the 2 words Hua Mansion were written on the gate of this mansion. The people living here were Hua Qi and his clansmen. Back then, due to Lu Ming, the Hua family was also considered a big family. Later on, the world changed and many Chinese people rose to prominence. Many powerhouses were born, and they had a pivotal position in the Dragon Alliance. However, similarly, when Sakura came, the Hua family was also controlled by the monarch family. There were many experts guarding the Hua Mansion. They were all from the monarch race. Now the Hua Mansion welcomed a guest. It was the #1 genius of the Divine Wilderness continent, Ren Qianxing. Ren Qianxing was Sakura's disciple. Hua Qi led a group of people to receive him in the main hall of the Hua Mansion. "Young Master Ren, I wonder what brings you to my Hua Mansion?" Hua Qi asked. "Hua Qi, you already know the answer." Chapter 2177. Ren Qianxing sat at the head of the hall, lazily playing with the jade cup in his hand. He raised his head slightly, glanced at Hua Qi and said, "You know very well why I'm here, but I'll say it again now. I like Huarou, marry her to me." Hua Qi and the other members of the Hua family were startled. Ren Qianxing was indeed here for Huarou. Huarou was Hua Qi's youngest daughter. She was a famous beauty in the Dragon Emperor City. Ren Qianxing had always been pursuing Huarou. Ren Qianxing was a good match for Huarou with his talent and identity. However, Ren Qianxing was a playboy by nature. Now he had already married a wife and 3 concubines. Moreover, it was said that Ren Qianxing was only interested in something new. After playing with the concubines for a period of time, he no longer cared about them, and went on to find his next target. How could Hua Qi let his daughter marry such a person? Furthermore, Ren Qianxing's master was Sakura. He had occupied the Dragon Emperor City, and controlled the upper echelons of the Dragon Alliance. Therefore, he would not let his daughter marry Ren Qianxing. Furthermore, Huarou hated Ren Qianxing very much. "Young Master Ren, marriage is a big matter. It's related to my daughter's happiness. Ro needs to make her own decision. We won't interfere," Hua Qi said. "Hua Qi, what do you mean?" Ren Qianxing's face turned cold. "You mean Huarou won't be happy with me?" "It would be strange if she was happy." Hua Qi and the other members of the Hua family had the same thought, but they would not say it out loud. "Young Master Ren, you've misunderstood. That's not what I meant. What I meant was that Ro needs to make her own decision," Hua Qi explained. "Ridiculous. Since ancient times, it's always been the parents' orders and the matchmaker's words. As long as you give the order, how would Huarou dare to disobey? Wouldn't she still have to marry me?" Ren Qianxing's expression turned even colder as he continued. "Hua Qi, don't give me all sorts of excuses. Who do you think I am? In the future, I will definitely dominate the Divine Wilderness, and even head to the Yuan continent to become an overlord. It's your daughter's fortune that I fancy her. It's her fortune that she has cultivated for several lifetimes. Do you understand? Who do you think you are? You really know how to flatter yourself. A person like you would probably be slapped to death in Yuanlu. At this moment, a voice sounded out from outside the hall, and then a young and beautiful woman walked in. The girl was 16 years old and was in her prime. She was an outstanding beauty and was Hua Qi's youngest daughter, Huaro. Huaro, what did you say? Do you know how much trouble you'll bring to the Hua clan? Ren Qianxing said coldly. His cold eyes moved up and down Huaro's curvaceous body, flashing with an evil light. What? Are you going to use your master to pressure us again? Huaro was very stubborn and fearless. I don't need to marry my master. I, Ren Qianxing, have an unprecedented talent. If I want to marry someone, those women who want to marry me could line up from the North City Gate of Dragon Emperor City to the South City Gate of Dragon Emperor City. Do you understand? It's your fortune that I like you. Am I clear? Ren Qianxing said confidently. Unprecedented? You really know how to flatter yourself. In my heart, only my uncle Lu Ming is unprecedented. Who do you think you are? Huaro said. Lu Ming? If he appears, I'll slap him to death. Ren Qianxing said in disdain. He then looked at Hua Qi and said, Hua Qi, do you agree or not? Since Ro, or doesn't agree, please forgive me. I can't agree. Hua Qi said firmly. Good, very good. Since that's the case, I will take first place in tomorrow's competition. At that time, I will ask my master to grant me a marriage. Even if you don't agree, you have to agree. Ren Qianxing fiercely left behind these words, flicking his sleeves and leaving. Hua Qi, Huaro, and the others' faces changed. If Di Shitian personally granted them a marriage, what should they do? If they rejected Di Shitian, the Hua family would be annihilated. That despicable man, Huaro said with hatred as tears flowed down her cheeks. Roer, don't worry. Even if I die, I won't let you marry him. Hua Qi gritted his teeth. Everyone in the Hua family was worried. Time flew by, and a day passed by. Early the next morning, Lu Ming and the other three headed to the center of the Dragon Emperor City. In the center of the Dragon Emperor City, there was a huge square that was already crowded with people. Around the square, there were some banquets prepared. Of course, only those with status could take a seat. Ordinary people weren't qualified at all. The emperor race is here. Suddenly someone shouted. Whoosh! Whoosh! From the depths of the Dragon Emperor City, rays of light flew over. The person in the lead was wearing an emperor's robe. He looked to be in his 40s with a jade crown on his head. He looked like an ancient emperor who had revived, filled with endless majesty. Di Shitian. Needless to say, Lu Ming knew that this person was Di Shitian. Beside Di Shitian, there were some people. A few of them were abnormally tall and sturdy. They were covered in thick iron armor and their bodies were covered in black light. Evil God tribe. Lu Ming squinted his eyes slightly. These people were all from the Evil God tribe, and one of them had reached the martial emperor realm. Beside him, there were a few young men. That is Ren Qianxing, the #1 genius of the divine wilderness. Ren Qianxing's talent is amazing. Some people say that he is more talented than Lu Ming in the past, and is the #1 in history. Not necessarily. Around them a group of people discussed. Zhuang Xiaoro and Zhuang Xiaoshan were indignant. Bright Saint Realm. Lu Ming looked at one of the young men. This person's cultivation had reached the Bright Saint Realm, and he should be Ren Qianxing. Beside Ren Qianxing, there was another young man. It was Li Ku. Di Shitian and the others landed at the highest position and sat down. Moo moo, at this moment. A bull's roar shook the sky. In the distance, a group of divine bulls the size of a mountain stepped on the void, causing the sky to rumble. When they got closer, these divine bulls turned into tall and sturdy men. The people of the Divine Bull Palace had arrived. The people of the Divine Bull Palace also brought a few young men, and they landed on the east seat. Immediately, the roar of beasts resounded. Ferocious beasts pulled chariots, and a few chariots flew over. The people of the Barbarian Dragon Palace had arrived. Similarly, the Barbarian Dragon Palace also brought a few young men. The three major forces of the Yuan continent had arrived. The leaders of the three forces looked at each other in the air, and a terrifying aura spread out. An invisible pressure spread out. Everyone present felt as if they were facing several ancient universes. The suffocating pressure almost made them kneel down. Lu Ming released a wisp of aura that enveloped Fatty, Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiaro. The pressure on them lessened, and they let out a long breath. Third Martial Emperor Realm? Lu Ming muttered. The leaders of the three forces faced each other, and their auras spread out. Others could not see their cultivation, but Lu Ming could. Chapter 2178. Sakura, the Divine Bull Palace Master, and the Barbarian Dragon Palace Master faced each other. Their auras filled the air as they revealed their rank 3 martial emperors. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled into a smile. He did not take a level 3 martial emperor seriously. You too want to take over the Eastern Wilderness? No way. The Divine Bull Palace Master was a purple-haired middle-aged man. He smiled coldly. The Divine Bull Palace was the first force to come to the Eastern Wilderness. Therefore, they occupied the place with the densest origin chi. The Monarch tribe and the Barbarian Dragon Palace Master had always wanted to take over the Eastern Wilderness, but they had never succeeded. This time, the Monarch tribe and the Barbarian Dragon Palace Master had joined forces to put pressure on the Divine Bull Palace. Where did the Divine Bull Palace and the Barbarian Dragon Palace Master come from? Lu Ming frowned and pondered. These two forces definitely did not come from the Tsang state. They must have come to the Divine Wilderness through other means. You'll know after the competition. Don't go back on your word. Sakura smiled faintly. My Divine Bull Palace won't go back on our word. Tell me, how are we going to compete this time? The Divine Bull Palace Master asked. How are we going to compete? We've already agreed that there's no need for you and me to fight. Both sides will send out their local geniuses to compete. How about this? Each side will send out 3 geniuses to compete in the group battle and individual battle. Sakura said. Alright, it's decided then. I agree. The Divine Bull Palace Master and the Barbarian Dragon Palace Master nodded in agreement. Not long after, a battle stage rose in the middle of the square. 3 young men from each of the 3 forces rushed into the stage. Ren Qianxing, Ren Qianxing. Ren Qianxing. The Monarch tribe naturally sent out Ren Qianxing. As soon as he stepped into the battle stage, many people shouted, including some ignorant girls. Ren Qianxing did look like a decent man. Many ignorant girls did not know how to differentiate between good and evil. They mindlessly idolized Ren Qianxing. Ren Qianxing stood with his hands behind his back, looking like a peerless expert. What a show-off. I can't wait to step on his face. Kong Jin said unhappily. You'll have the chance. Lu Ming smiled. I'm mainly annoyed by those brainless girls. Ren Qianxing doesn't have anything he wants. How can he be compared to me? Those girls really don't have eyes. Kong Jin pursed his lips. Lu Ming was speechless. Brother Niu, why don't we join forces? That Ren Qianxing is not easy to deal with. The Barbarian Dragon Palace Master secretly sent a message to the Divine Bull Palace Master. The eyes of the Master of the Divine Bull Palace flashed as he said, Alright, then let's join forces first and defeat the people of the Emperor clan. Then we'll decide who's better. Alright, that's what I meant. The Barbaric Dragon Palace Master nodded. Soon after, the Barbarian Dragon Hall Master and Divine Bull Palace Master sent voice transmissions to their respective supreme geniuses. At this moment, the 3 groups of geniuses were facing each other in the fighting ring. Around them, many people were watching nervously. From the discussions of the surrounding people, they knew that the 9 youths on the battle stage were 9 of the top 10 geniuses of the Divine Wilderness continent. Each of them had a very high cultivation level. On the Emperor clan's side, Ren Qianxing and Li Ku were both there. At this moment, the Divine Bull Palace and Barbarian Dragon Palace's supreme geniuses looked at each other and suddenly moved. 6 youths from both sides suddenly rushed towards the Emperor clan's supreme geniuses from 2 different directions. Damn it, they want to join forces to deal with us first. Li Ku roared loudly. You're despicable. Another supreme genius from the Emperor clan also roared loudly. However, the supreme geniuses from both sides were extremely fast. In an instant, they closed in and attacked them. Li Ku and another supreme genius roared and charged forward. However, Ren Qianqing still had his hands behind his back, not moving at all. Boom! Boom! 2 explosions rang out. How could Li Ku and the other youth block the other party? They were directly blasted back, blood flowing out of their mouths. The 6 youths from the Divine Bull Palace and Barbarian Dragon Palace surrounded Ren Qianqing. Ren Qianqing, admit defeat. One of the Divine Bull Palace's supreme geniuses said. This person was ranked second among the top 10 supreme geniuses and had a cultivation level of 3rd stage half-saint. Admit defeat? What a joke. You want to defeat me with trash like you? Ren Qianqing said indifferently. Boasting shamelessly. Then I'll have you get lost now. The supreme genius roared. The 6 supreme geniuses all released their powerful auras. They were all half-saints, and the weakest among them was a 2nd stage half-saint. Boom. However, at this moment, a terrifying aura erupted from Ren Qianqing's body. Vast sage aura spread out in all directions. At this moment, Ren Qianqing's cultivation level of the bright sage realm was revealed. Sage realm. You've broken through to the sage realm. You've actually broken through to the sage realm. The 6 supreme geniuses from the 2 major forces roared in disbelief. This guy has actually broken through to the sage realm. Zhuang Xiao and Zhuang Xiao were also a little surprised. The sage realm was a hurdle that was difficult to cross. For example, if Fatty Kongjin did not have Lu Ming's help, it would probably take a long time for him to cross the sage realm. At this moment, the surrounding crowd was also in an uproar. They were shocked by Ren Qianqing's cultivation level. Those ignorant young girls were even more agitated as they screamed and screamed. Now you're the ones who have lost. Ren Qianqing roared as rays of sword light bloomed from his hand. His master was Sakura, so naturally he had also cultivated divine powers that were extremely powerful. Bam! Bam! The supreme geniuses from the 2 major forces could not resist at all. They were directly sent flying by the sword light and fell to the ground, vomiting blood. A sage-to-be was no match for a sage realm cultivator. The supreme geniuses from the 2 major forces had been defeated in an instant. There was no suspense in the competition. Damn it! The Sacred Bull Palace master roared, his face gloomy. The crowd was also in an uproar as countless people cheered for Ren Qianqing. Too powerful, really too powerful. Ren Qianqing has reached the sage realm at such a young age. This is defying the heavens. Isn't that so? No wonder he's the top supreme genius of the divine wilderness. This is rare since ancient times. Someone actually put Lu Ming and Ren Qianqing on the same level. In my opinion, Lu Ming and Ren Qianqing are not even on the same level. Lu Ming is far from being comparable. Not bad, not bad. A series of discussions could be heard all around the square. Damn it. What do these people know? How do they know how powerful Master is? That's right, a bunch of ignorant people. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao were very unhappy. These people actually said that Lu Ming was far from being comparable to Ren Qianqing. It was ridiculous. They knew how powerful Lu Ming was. In just 3 months, he was able to make their strength soar. They did not know how many times stronger he was than Ren Qianqing. Lu Ming smiled slightly and did not care. With his current cultivation level, why would he care about these people's discussions? Many people sighed. They reckoned that in this competition, there was already no suspense. The Emperor clans were definitely going to win. Sakura was full of smiles. In order to help Ren Qianqing break through to the sage realm, he had paid a great price. But it was all worth it. The cultivation environment in the Eastern Wilderness was too good. As long as he occupied the Eastern Wilderness, he planned to move the entire D family over and make it their base camp. The D family would definitely continue to grow stronger and rise. Chapter 2179. As expected, the individual battles became Ren Qianqing's show. He defeated everyone in his way and no one was a match for him. He won the first place without exception. Meanwhile, Li Ku won the 8th place. Although the other two from the monarch race didn't have good results, Ren Qianxing's ranking meant that the monarch race's points were still the highest. The entire monarch race laughed their heads off. Those from the Divine Bull Palace and the Barbarian Dragon Palace looked gloomy. This battle had pushed Ren Qianxing's reputation to the top. Many people even said that Ren Qianxing was a prodigy that had never appeared in the Divine Desolate region. They said that Lu Ming wasn't even worthy of carrying Ren Qianxing's shoes. Zhuang Xiaoshan and the others gritted their teeth. Ren Qianxing stood on the fighting stage with his hands behind his back, enjoying the envious gazes of many people. There was a smug smile on his face. He was enjoying himself immensely, and his entire being was floating. He felt as if he was invincible since ancient times. After a long time, he restrained his thoughts and cupped his fists towards Sakura as he said, "Master, disciple has a matter to request of Master today. I hope that Master will grant my wish." "Haha, Qianxing, you have won the first place today. Tell me what you want. Treat it as a reward from me." Sakura laughed out loud. "Thank you, Master. I would like to ask you to marry Huarou, the daughter of Huaqi, to me," Ren Qianxing said. Huaqi. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Ren Qianxing wanted to marry Huaqi's daughter. He had left the Divine Desolate region for more than 10 years, and Huaqi already had a few children before he left. Lu Ming remembered that Huaqi did have a daughter called Huarou. Could it be that Huarou and Ren Qianxing were in love? Lu Ming frowned. He was about to take action, but he held himself back and wanted to see what was going on. "Oh, that's it. I'll call Huaqi and the other members of the Dragon Alliance and ask them to get ready to move to the Eastern Desolate region with me." Sakura nodded and then asked someone to pass the message. Not long after, a group of people flew over. Huaqi Xiaowan, Senior Jiuyang, Brother Yan. At a glance, Lu Ming saw a familiar face in the crowd. Huaqi Xiaowan, Xia Jiuyang, Yan Kuangtu, etc. were all high-ranking members of the Dragon Alliance. Of course, there was also Huaqi's daughter, Huarou. Huaqi's face was somewhat ugly. He had a bad premonition. When he came here and heard that Ren Qianxing had already broken through to the Saint Realm and even obtained first place, his heart sank. "Huaqi, today Qianxing told me that he is interested in your daughter, Huarou. I will bestow your daughter, Huarou, to Qianxing. Today they will get married. It can be considered a double blessing. What do you say?" Sakura asked smilingly. "No, I won't agree." A crisp voice rang out. It was Huarou. Huaqi said with an unpleasant expression, "Senior Martial Emperor, my daughter Huarou is still young. She doesn't want to get married. I hope Senior Martial Emperor will take back the order." "What do you mean?" Ren Qianxing's face darkened as he stared at Huaqi and Huarou. "I, Ren Qianxing, have the greatest talent since the ancient times. Could it be that I'm not worthy of Huarou? Don't be ignorant of your good fortune. The #1 talent since ancient times, how shameless." Huarou went all out and scolded. Sakura's face also turned gloomy as he said, "I called you guys over, not to ask for your opinions, but to inform you that I have personally spoken. No one can refuse. You guys go and prepare, we'll get married in a while." Huaqi and Huarou's faces turned pale. Ren Qianxing, on the other hand, wore a smug expression. "Senior Martial Emperor, marriage is a big deal. I'm afraid it's not good for you to force a marriage." Xiaowan stepped forward and cupped his fists. "That's right. I hope Senior Martial Emperor will take back the order." Following this, Xia Jiuyang, Yan Kuangtu, and the others also stepped forward and spoke. "Who do you think you are? Since my master has already spoken, there's no reason for him to take it back. Are you going to disobey him?" Ren Qianxing scolded. Around them, everyone just watched. No one said a word. Xiaowan, Xia Jiuyang, Yan Kuangtu, Huaqi, and the others wore unpleasant expressions. Unfortunately, the monarch tribe was too strong. If they resisted, they would probably be crushed to death by Sakura. There was no hope at all. "No, I won't marry him. I won't marry him even if I die," Huarou shouted stubbornly. "You have to marry him even if you don't want to. If you die, your family will be buried with you. Have you thought it through?" Ren Qianxing transmitted his voice to Huarou. His voice was cold. Huarou's delicate body trembled. A look of despair flashed across her face as tears streamed down her face. Fatty Xiaoshan Xiao, it's your turn. At this moment, Lu Ming said to Fatty and the others. Haha, it's finally my turn. I can't hold it in any longer. Fatty laughed loudly. He carried his battle axe and rushed out. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao followed Fatty and rushed out. Ren Qianxing, who do you think you are? Huarou is an outstanding beauty. How can you be worthy of her? Why don't you look at yourself in the mirror? A loud roar resounded throughout the entire place. Ren Qianxing's face instantly darkened. He shouted, Who is it? Come out! Your grandfather. Fatty carried his battle axe and walked out. Beside him followed Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao. Hua Qi, Huarou, Xiaowan and the others also saw Fatty and Zhuang Xiaoshan. Fatty Xiaoshan Xiao, why are you here? This has nothing to do with you. Leave now. Hua Qi shouted. Today's matter was a little mysterious. He didn't want to involve Fatty and the others. Haha, it's okay. We're here today to beat this sissy up. We'll leave after we're done. Fatty carried his battle axe and looked at Ren Qianxing in disdain. You guys are courting death. Ren Qianxing squeezed out a sentence from his teeth. It was extremely eerie. Courting death? You're not qualified. Also, you're not qualified to marry Huarou. Fatty said lazily. Ha ha ha, what a joke. I'm not qualified. If I'm not qualified, who in the world is qualified? My talent is unparalleled since ancient times. Who can compare to me? Ren Qianxing laughed. What a joke. You're just a piece of trash. How dare you say that your talent is unparalleled? Fatty said in disdain. What did you say? Ren Qianxing's face was incomparably gloomy. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Ever since he became Sakra's disciple, his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. He was sought after by countless people and many people said that his talent was unparalleled since ancient times. Now Fatty actually said that he was trash. Instantly, he had sentenced Fatty to death in his heart. Saying that he was trash was unforgivable. Are you deaf? I said that you're trash. Unless you can defeat me, only then will you be qualified to be with Huarou. Do you understand? Fatty said indifferently. These words made many people speechless. This Fatty wanted to challenge Ren Qianxing? Who is this Fatty? Why is he so arrogant? I recognize him. He seems to be Lu Ming's friend. He's not even 50 years old. He can be considered as someone from the younger generation. Chapter 2180. Discussions broke out around the square. Hua Qi, Xiaojiuyang and the rest had an ugly look on their faces. They didn't understand why Fatty and the rest were here. There was no benefit in provoking Ren Qianxing like this. Instead, they would get themselves into trouble. Also, Fatty actually challenged Ren Qianxing. It was impossible for him to be Ren Qianxing's opponent. They knew about Fatty's cultivation. He wasn't a saint yet. Moreover, even if Fatty became a saint, he wouldn't be Ren Qianxing's opponent. Ren Qianxing was Sakra's disciple and could cultivate divine arts. Divine arts didn't exist in the divine wilderness continent. If they were at the same level, they wouldn't be Ren Qianxing's opponent. Fatty Xiaoshan Xiao, you guys leave. Hua Qi roared. Zhuang Xiaoshan and Zhuang Xiao were Lu Ming's disciples. If something happened to them because of him, how could he explain it to Lu Ming? Leave. Today, none of them can leave. Ren Qianxing's voice was cold. Killing intent flashed in his eyes as a powerful aura spread out from his body. Fatty actually dared to provoke him. He must kill Fatty today and let everyone know that his dignity couldn't be offended. No matter, I'll beat this guy up and let everyone know that he's a piece of trash. Then I'll leave. The Fatty grinned at Hua Qi previously. Lu Ming had told him to just attack. There was no need to worry about the Sakra and the other powerful figures. Therefore, Fatty wasn't afraid at all. Hua Qi, Xiaojiuyang and the rest were dumbfounded. They didn't understand why Fatty, Zhuang Xiaoshan, and Zhuang Xiao were so confident today. Were they crazy? Even the spectators felt that Fatty and the rest were crazy. They were going to die today. Courting death. Ren Qianxing took a step forward. His killing intent was even stronger. Young Master Ren, There's no need for young Master Run to deal with these trash. Wouldn't it dirty your hands? Let me do it for you. At this moment, Li Ke stepped forward and took the opportunity to flatter Ren Qianxing. This flattery made Ren Qianxing feel very comfortable. He nodded and said, "That's good too. A few clowns are indeed not worthy of me taking action. You take action on my behalf. Cripple them first. I want them to regret it." "Rest assured, young Master Ren." Li Ke nodded and bowed. Then he stepped towards Fatty and the others, emitting a cold, murderous intent. "Li Ke, let me fight you." Zhuang Xiaoshan stepped out and faced Li Ke. "Zhuang Xiaoshan, you trash, how dare you fight me? 3 months ago, you couldn't even take a single blow from me. You were really courting death. That's fine. Today, I'll let everyone understand that Lu Ming's disciple is a piece of trash, and he himself is also a piece of trash. He was just bragging too much." Li Ke sneered. These words caused many people's expressions to turn ugly. There were quite a few people here. They were all members of the Dragon Alliance back then. Many of them had personally witnessed Lu Ming's heaven-defying rise to power back then. But now Li Ke said that Lu Ming was trash. Didn't that mean that they were trash too? "How dare you insult my master? I'll kill you today." Zhuang Xiaoshan was enraged. His eyes were filled with killing intent. A long spear appeared in his hand, and a powerful aura burst out. The first stage of half-saint. "You, how could your cultivation level increase so quickly?" Li Ke screamed in disbelief. 3 months ago, Zhuang Xiaoshan's cultivation level was only at rank 8 Martial Royal Realm. How could he break through so many levels in just 3 months and reach the first stage of the half-saint realm? In the past 3 months, with the help of the Emperor tribe, he had only broken through 1 level and reached the second stage of the half-saint realm. Zhuang Xiaoshan's cultivation level was higher than his. However, he quickly came to his senses and a ferocious look flashed across his eyes. He said arrogantly, "You must have had a fortuitous encounter and obtained some powerful sacred medicine. But so what? Your cultivation level is still too weak to withstand a single blow from the powerful medicine. I can defeat you with a single blow." So what if Zhuang Xiaoshan's cultivation level was at the first stage of the half-saint realm? He was now at the second stage of the half-saint realm. Moreover, his master was a boundary emperor of the Emperor tribe. He had taught him territorial martial techniques. He was confident that he could defeat Zhuang Xiaoshan with a single blow. Boom! A powerful aura burst out from Li Ke's body. At the same time, a combat sword appeared in his hand. Sword radiance burst out, and with the power of the precepts, he charged towards Zhuang Xiaoshan. In the divine region, those who were at the first stage of the half-saint realm, and had not cultivated any territorial martial techniques, would not be able to withstand a single blow from him. However, although Zhuang Xiaoshan had yet to cultivate a domain martial technique, his spiritual body had already reached the low-grade celestial spiritual body, and low-tier heaven spiritual body was considered a genius in the Yuanlu. In the past, there was not a single low-tier heaven spiritual body in the Zhangzhou state. Li Ke's spiritual body was just an ordinary spiritual body. Zhuang Xiaoro's spiritual body's power was enough to crush Li Ke. Boom! Zhuang Xiaoro waved his spear and smashed it down. This spear did not have any technique to speak of. It was just a simple spear strike. Under the infusion of true essence, the long spear rapidly grew in size. It was like a giant pillar that supported the sky as it smashed towards Li Ke. Bam! Bam! Li Ke's sword radiance collapsed under the spear. The giant spear smashed onto Li Ke's body. Li Ke's body was like a broken sandbag as he landed heavily on the fighting ring, causing it to tremble. Li Ke lay on the fighting ring and vomited blood. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He had been crushed by Zhuang Xiaoshan in a single blow. 3 months ago, Zhuang Xiaoshan was a piece of trash that could not withstand a single blow from him. Now he had been crushed in a single blow. He could not accept this. Everyone in the surroundings was a little stunned. Li Ke was one of the top 10 elites in the divine region. In other words, other than the top 10 elites, no one else was a match for Li Ke. However, he had been defeated by Zhuang Xiaoshan in a single blow. Was this Lu Ming's disciple? If his disciple was so strong, how could his master be weak? Brother Xiaoshan is so powerful. Huarou exclaimed. Huaqi, Xiaojiuyang, and the rest were stunned. They knew Zhuang Xiaoshan's cultivation and combat strength very well. They had not seen him for a while. How did he become so strong? You cheated. You cheated. There are other experts secretly helping you. Li Ke shouted crazily. He remembered the last time. Last time, someone had secretly helped Zhuang Xiaoshan. Li Ke was defeated by Zhuang Xiaoshan in a single blow. It was exactly the same as this time. No one secretly helped. The Divine Bull Palace Master said lightly. His voice reverberated throughout the area. The Divine Bull Palace had lost this time. They had lost to the monarch tribe, and had to give up the eastern wilderness. This made him very unhappy. Now that he saw the monarch tribe suffer, he was naturally happy. No one doubted the Divine Bull Palace Master's words. He was a martial emperor realm expert, and an expert among the martial emperors. How is this possible? Li Ke could not believe it. You're a piece of trash and you dare to talk about others. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.